What's up everybody, Teldo here, and today we're going to have a look at Battlerite's new champion, Raigon, the sweet anime prince. And in today's video I'm going to be showing off Raigon's abilities and some of his playstyle, and I will give you a short overview of how I feel about him, my first impressions, where he's strong and where he lacks. So let's get started with the abilities. He has a normal left click that deals 10 damage per hit, has a pretty wide radius, and he also has one of those stack systems where you get weapon charges whenever you hit a left click. Your right click uses up those stacks, it's a short distance dash, and it hits for 17 with 3 stacks, and it also heals you for 17. So it heals you for the same amount of damage that you deal. It's AoE damage, and it deals less damage if you hit multiple enemies, and also heals, like for every additional enemy hit, heals a little bit less. Then his spacebar ability is like half a croak jump. It's very limited in a way, so you can't like jump anywhere, like you have a minimum distance with it, but it also hits for 18 like croak. But one thing that's interesting about it is that it actually is an AoE skill, so you hit multiple targets with it, unlike Croak, which makes it really powerful in some situations. Then his Q ability is a parry, which just deflects melee attacks. It's basically like a shield, and it reflects or deflects projectiles, and you can choose in which direction they're gonna fly. So if like if a Jade were to snipe me, I could like redirect it towards the orb and get the orb kill with it or something like that, and I think that's really cool. Like it. It's kind of like Genji's deflect, to be honest. His E ability is a projectile that knocks enemies into the air for 1.4 seconds, and during the air time they're immune. You can't really attack them, they have iframes. But I think it's a really cool ability, and I think it can be compared to Lucy Panic in a lot of ways. It has a very similar cast time, it has a very similar range, and yeah, you knock enemies back a little bit and CC them for a short time, allowing you to just buy a little bit of time for yourself and your team. Interesting about it is that you can follow it up with a spacebar ability, for example, to burst your enemy down a little bit, and it's just a really cool ability, I think. Generally, this character is a lot about combos. You can do some pretty cool stuff. Speaking about combos, his R ability, there's also a talent for it, which allows you to use it twice. It allows you to knock an enemy back into a wall and stunning them for 1 second. So it's basically a croak stun if you hit an enemy into a wall, and since you can go for the talent to hit it twice, you can like do this and then do one left click or whatever and do another R, or like R, right click R, left click or whatever, or you can even use your E before they would break out of the stun and knock them up. Very interesting. I think this is one of his coolest abilities as soon as he gets a double dash as well, and also one of the strongest things he can do. Stunning an enemy for 2 seconds is very powerful. He can't like deal the craziest amount of damage during that time himself, but I mean, it's decent enough damage, and his team can follow up on it and can do some really cool stuff, and I think that's just where he shines. He feels a little bit like a fighting character in a way, that you have like all those cool combos and you can like combine your skills in really cool ways. And then his ultimate is very cool. You dash in a line, and when you hit an enemy, you deal 20 damage to them and deal damage to all enemies in a circle around your target location. And well, it's not really AoE damage, it's like you deal damage to one enemy at a time, switching between them over and over again. And this ability is just so cool, and it's really powerful too. One cool thing about it as well is you can cancel it, so if I were to chase a Lucy or whatever, like she rolls out of it or whatever, I can just follow her immediately, which I think is cool. They should probably do the same thing with Raigon's ultimate, so he doesn't die all the time. If you don't hit anything, it doesn't do anything. Simple as that. It's a good skill. It also works on the orb. By the way, you can't knock orbs up, is also something I should mention here. And then his EX abilities: Slicing Winds. Infuse the blade with determination. And it makes your left click send out a slicing wind, which basically deals 10 damage just like your normal auto attack. It just gives you a little bit more range and makes it AoE. And it heals you for 16. No, 14, excuse me. For 14 per enemy hit. I think it also gets reduced if you hit multiple enemies. But yeah, it's good sustain. It's I guess it's kind of comparable to Rook's EX1, and it just gives you good sustain. Although I realized that this ability is actually not that good against good players, because look, it has a cast time on it, so it's very, very obvious when you're going to use it. And as soon as you use it, an enemy's going to use a counter or whatever. And if you play against another Raigon, he's just going to reflect it back at you, and then he's going to heal. Or like a Bucko is going to do the same thing. Or, you know, like it's hard to use against good players, because like the time where you actually cast it is already taking some time, and then you don't have the time to juke them, especially because your left click is out of the game, you know? Like you don't want to waste your charge with it and hit a counter with it or whatever, and you don't really have that much other stuff you can do. I don't know, I think it's tricky to use. I don't think it's that good, unfortunately. And then his EX2 is basically just a knock-up that incapacitates enemies at the end, which makes it really powerful to just set up for your teammates. You can knock somebody up, and during that time where they're knocked up, you can't just break the ink cap accidentally. So that's something that's really important, you know? Like if I play Croak or whatever and I ink cap this target, sometimes my ally might just break it immediately. This just makes it easier for your team to coordinate. And I think that's the thing about this champion, right? He doesn't deal a whole lot of damage. His right click only deals 17 damage fully stacked. And that's like nothing compared to a Shifu who hits you for like 30 or whatever. It's crazy. So yeah, he doesn't deal crazy amounts of damage, but he has those CC capabilities. And he has like big burst with his spacebar as well, especially you can go for a talent which gives it 7 extra damage, so you could knock somebody up like that, and you could jump on them, and that's just, what, 35 damage like that. Or you can even do it with your normal E and just time it right. Time it right. Time it right. It's not easy to do, because yeah, there's like a 0.1 time frame where you can actually hit them before they can break free. So it's not easy to time. Anyway, though, I think it's really cool. Then he has his R to knock enemies into walls and then knock them up and do all those cool shenanigans and then burst the crap out of them. And yeah, he's a very cool character. I love his kit. Super fun to play. Super duper fun. Love it. Very ANIMU as well. Like, I love listening to Shingeki no Kyojin music while playing him. Or Naruto fighting Dreamer music or whatever. I had so much fun on stream with that. It was fantastic, guys. Anyway, though, don't want to go too much into the Battlerites now, but I want to talk briefly about my first impressions on this character after playing him for like 5-6 hours yesterday on stream. He's a little underwhelming from what I've seen, unfortunately. Like, he has all this cool stuff, but he feels very weird to play. You can't just like sit on a target and like deal tons of damage like a Shifu does. And the thing is, he has actual real trouble sticking to targets. His right click is a very short dash. His R costs energy and is also a very short dash and knocks enemies away. So you can only really use it when you can knock somebody into a wall. His spacebar is kind of like Croak's, that it's very slow and predictable. So you will have a tough time sticking on enemies. You jump on a Taya, then your space is down, and you can't stick on her anymore. She uses her haste and she runs away from you. You have no way of slowing her. You have nothing, right? You have nothing to stick on her. Absolutely nothing, actually. And her Q, his Q, is basically his only survivability when he's in the middle of the fight. You want to use your space offensively, especially when it deals 25 frickin' damage, right? You don't want to use it to jump away from an enemy, although sometimes you have to. And then you only have your Q to survive. And once it's down, man, people are just going to focus you. And you're going to die. And I think that's a big problem that he has. He has a lack of mobility and, shockingly, survivability as well. Even though he has all that nice sustain with his right click. One big problem with his right click and his R. Look at me dashing at them. There's a pretty long delay after you use the dash and until you hit your enemy, right? Pretty long delay. And during this entire time, enemies can CC you. And I mean, they don't do it on purpose. most of the time, but it just happens nonstop. Any kind of CC, any kind of displacement, any kind of knockback, silence, whatever, will stop your right click completely, and it will use up your stacks as well, and put it on full cooldown. And you won't have done anything. And that's a real problem. And I think that's one of the biggest things they have to fix. Because if you use your fully stacked right click and you don't hit it, because they get a lucky knockback on you, and it just happens all the time, then you're gonna be really far behind. You're gonna take tons of damage, and then you're like, if you get knocked away from the tire, you're gonna sit here, your right click is on cooldown, and what are you gonna do? This is not really in range for a jump properly. Like on a moving target, you're not gonna hit a jump on this range really. They will just move up and down, and they can like just sidestep it. You're not gonna hit a jump, right? You can try to use your E, but like even that, they can like choke on that range. You can try to dash towards them, but that's not going to do too much either, right? Like, you will just have trouble. Your right click's on cooldown, you're not going to do anything. You can't get to your enemy anymore. And at that moment, you just want to try to run away. That's just a big theme of this character. He really has trouble sticking to enemies, and he just gets punished really hard. So, yeah. Besides that, I really love the kit. I want to see this character do well, and I'm looking forward to a couple slight buffs, I think, like just fixing his right click, making it a little bit faster maybe, or making it just always reach the target destination even when you get CC'd. That's something they should do with any dash, by the way. Same with Croak, same with Bakko's E. I think that would help him tremendously. And maybe one other thing, giving him maybe a little bit more distance on his spacebar to stick on enemies, because like his spacebar is not a very good escape right now, or like even a gap closer tool is not that good. Look, it's not that much distance, and during that time that you jump there, an enemy can like just walk the same distance and almost keep up with you, right? So it's like nothing to really get away from people unless you jump over a wall, but even then, you know, they just walk around it and use another gap closer on you. And he's not like Shifu, where he can like constantly throw harpoons at enemies and like constantly stick on them and be really hard to get rid of. He doesn't also have the counter which teleports him behind enemies. Like, he just doesn't stick to enemies, and he doesn't have ways to disengage from fights. If you jump in, you can't get out anymore. You only have your Q is down, you die. So yeah, they probably need to do a little bit about that. I don't think his damage is a problem at all. Yeah, sure, he doesn't hit like a freaking truck, but I think that's awesome. I think that focuses him more on playing with his team and synergizing with them. I think that's something we should see more, and I'm very excited about him. Can't wait. That wraps it up for me today. I'm gonna just add on a couple of gameplay clips from Raigon, and I will see you guys next time. By the way, real fast, excuse me for not uploading for so long. I've been really stressed. I've had crazy sleeping issues, making it very hard for me to work on YouTube while maintaining my daily streams, which I've been keeping up for a while. So yeah, I'm sorry, I really want to do more YouTube. I love it, I enjoy it, but it takes a lot of time. I'm trying to adjust it though, and I want to pick it up again and just release more videos again. So thanks for everybody who stays with me and can look over my Slack, I guess. Really appreciate you, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.